Okay, here is our last video on dividing decimals. I know you're probably sick of dividing at this point, but there are so many ways you could divide numbers, different types of problems. So let's go ahead and jump into our last one about dividing decimals. So now, I know we've already been dividing decimals, but now we're going to have a decimal in our divisor, and I'll tell you about how to deal with that in a second. But we want to remember that dividing decimals is just like dividing whole numbers. There's only one additional step added onto the process. So go ahead and write this in your notes. What you need to do when you have a decimal divided by another decimal, so not just a decimal in your dividend, but also in your divisor, you need to multiply your divisor and then your dividend by a power of 10. Now, if you don't know what I mean by a power of 10, you should pause this video, go back and take a look at that optional video about multiples or multiplying by a power of 10, and that will help you with this. But if you get what I'm saying, then let's move on to the next thing. So we're going to start the same way we did before and figure out our dividend divisor. Nothing new yet. So remember, first person or first number, however you want to think of it, that is always your dividend when it's written like this, not in a real world problem, but when it's written like this. And then your second number is your divisor. Okay, just like normal. So if we were going to go to set this up, we would again have our dividend inside our division symbol, so our garage, and the divisor on the outside. Nothing new so far. Here's where the new part comes in. When we go to start doing our whole, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, all that stuff, this decimal in our divisor, this outside number here, becomes the problem child. So they cause us problems as we're trying to do our division steps. Okay, so we're going to fix the problem and multiply by a power of 10. And we do it to both numbers, so it's actually keeping the problem the same. It is just allowing us to use these steps more easily. So I don't care about a dividend in my divisor at the moment. It's the fact that I have one in my divisor. So dividend is okay, but divisor is not. So what we're going to do is multiply by a power of 10. Because I want to make this divisor a whole number. That's my whole goal. So if I move the decimal over once to the right, so multiplying by 10, okay, now that number becomes 8. So instead of 0.8, now it's 8. But I can't just leave the 20.56 all by itself like I didn't do anything to it, because that changes the problem to now a completely different problem. But if we do the exact same thing that we did to our divisor to now our dividend and move that decimal over as well, multiplied by a power of 10, that allows us to keep the problem what we call equivalent. So like it's basically like it's equal is what that word equivalent means. So now our dividend is 205.6. Okay? Now, if you've heard my mini lesson on the 2.8.4 divided by 0.4, this will go right along with this. If you haven't gotten to that one yet, that's fine. But again, this is how we need to solve problems when we have a decimal in our divisor. We don't care when it's in our dividend because we can just pop it up like we learned in that last video. But if there's a decimal in the divisor, now we have to deal with it and it impacts both numbers. So now, this becomes our new problem. So it's okay if you have this written, but this is where we're going to actually solve our problem. So then, we just go through our steps like normal. So we have 8 doesn't fit into 2, but it does fit into 20 2 times. So I'm going to put that 2 above the 0. Now, if you need to pause the video or go back and take a look at something, feel free. But moving forward, we do our multiplication. So 2 times 8 gives us 16. And we're going to subtract. Right, so we divided, we multiplied, now we're subtracting. Okay, and we get 4. That line just never wants to show up for me, does it? Oh well. So then we end up getting 4, because 20 minus 16 is 4. And 4 is less than 8, so I can go ahead and bring the 5 down. So now we start the process over again. How many times does 8 fit into 45? I'm thinking it's 5 times. So I do 5 times 8 to get 40. We need to subtract. And we end up with 5. Okay, 5 again is less than 8, so we can go ahead and bring down our 6. Gosh, I just don't like when things don't want to show up. Oh well. Anywho, so 8 fits into 56. 7 times. Yay, 7 times exactly. So we end up with 56. and we subtract and get 0. Okay? So we have no leftovers, we have no more numbers. So our answer is 257, right? No, you should know that we got to pop up that decimal. So our answer is really 25.7. So go ahead and either circle or rewrite that to make sure it's nice and clear. Okay? So circle or rewrite your answer. All right, moving on to the next thing. So I'm not going to do this whole problem with you, but I'm going to help you get it set up just to make sure you've got it. So we, again, identify our dividend divisor like always, just to make sure we know which number is which. So first number is 24.5, so that's our dividend. Our divisor is 0.2. I'm noticing that there is a decimal in our divisor. That is a problem child for us. We've got to fix that problem. So we do that by multiplying by power of 10. Well, I want this to become a whole number, so I only need to move over the decimal one time. So I'm only multiplying by 10, not 100 or 1,000, just by 10. So now it becomes 2. Okay? Oh, before I go any further, remember this is how our original problem would be, but again, I'm noticing that this 0.2 is the problem. That's why we're fixing it. So because I multiplied the 0.2 by 10, I need to multiply my dividend by that same power of 10. So just move it to the ones to the right. And so we end up with 245 divided by 2 now. Now that we made an equivalent problem, now we can go ahead and solve this. Okay? Now, let's say this was 0.02, then I would just move it 2 times to the right, meaning I was multiplying by 100, and I move this one 2 times to the right. So you just do it however many times that you need your divisor to be a whole number. So we'll keep looking at examples like that. So what I want you to do is go ahead and try this problem now that we have it set up. Try it on your own, and you can check with the answer key. But you have 2 options coming up after you've done that. If you're still feeling like dividing by either decimals or whole numbers or whatever is still kind of tricky for you, then here are a few IXLs you can practice. You can either use scratch paper or a dry erase board and marker to try these problems out and give it a go on here. Each one of these has a little bit different version. Notice this first one's a 5th grade one. Some of them are just whole numbers. Some of them have decimals. So whatever you think you need, feel free to try that. Just remember to log in using Clever like we do for Extra Math and click on IXL instead. And you should be able to go to those. Okay, just pay attention to which grade you're in and which one you're looking at. Okay, but if you don't need that extra practice, great, good for you. Go get your quick check from the hanging pockets in the back. If you're choosing to do the practice, that's fine, but you will still need to get your quick check and get that checked by a teacher. Okay, good luck. Choose what you need to do, but before you do that, remember, you have one more problem to solve on your own and check with the answer key. Good luck. You can do it.